and welcome back to another episode of JP and the Beanstalk.
Oh, here we are, for you, for us, for everyone. Really, there's a great energy in the gym. Always. Love it. Hey, random question for you, because we love those.
Random answer.
Have you ever thought about what it would be like to be a voice actor? And so there's a lot of ways we can go with this, okay? First branch off of that random topic, what character would you be typecast as, right? Because I feel like most voice actors kind of get put in the same role, like protagonist, antagonist, weirdo, deep voice guy, high-pitched goof.
Okay, well, I have great answers to all these questions. So, firstly, absolutely, I think about it all the time.
Right.
I think God I think God decided after He created me, He said, if we give this guy voice impressions, he will never shut the hell up. So, we're not going to do that. So, that's why I think I have a very limited circle of expertise.
Okay. You've got a very specific scope.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think he's right. Because ask my mom, when we went to Britain, I was doing the British accent.
Of course you were.
And oh my, dude, I dove in so deep. I was so good. I was so good over there.
Was this last year?
This was, I was in high school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And
nice.
I was in it.
You were in it.
And
you were full British.
She forced me to pull that out. She's like, you're done. I was like, come on. She's like, no, you're done. And then I also, my Batman voice, that hasn't gone away.
Sure.
That's
the old college humor Batman.
Great.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
My dad loves that voice.
Yep.
Makes him laugh all the time.
That's great.
Mom hates it. So I will do that when they're both around.
Love that.
To piss her off.
Right, because you win in both ways. You get both the enjoyment and the vast end of the other spectrum.
I love annoying my mother.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love that.
And then probably what I would get typecasted as, I feel like I would be the comic relief.
Okay.
Like I
can see that.
I'd be the Plastic Man.
Sure.
Or the Michelangelo. I feel like that would be my.
Here's what I could see you as. This is my. This is going to be the most recent reference I could possibly make. So Andy Samberg and John Mulaney did the Chip and Dale movie, which is just great.
Yeah.
Just great. Both those guys obviously are well accomplished in their respective primary fields, but I think voice acting is just fantastic for each of those dudes. Like, that just makes sense. And I could see you in that similar category.
Like Spider-Ham.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet.
No, that would be me.
Absolutely.
And I love that role.
That's
so
great.
I'm cool with that.
That's absolutely great. Yeah. I don't know if I have a great answer to my own question. So I love the Harry Potter books. And one of, I think, the best ways to absorb that particular content is through the audiobook version. Mm-hmm. So the dude, I think his name is Jim Dale, that performed, because he didn't just read, like, he freaking performed the bejeebers out of those books. They're phenomenal. Like, the range that dude has from the male to female characters, young, old, and everything in between, incredible. Crushes it. So selfishly, I wish I had what Jim Dale has in his back pocket, but I don't have that kind of range. But I think it'd be kind of fun to try and go on the lower end of the octave scale and try and do like a Kronk from Emperor's New Groove. Like, that's great. That's great. I would love to live in that spot. Love to live in that spot.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see like a narrator-esque or like a.
Sure, even a narrator, like something pretty basic.
You have a very commanding voice.
Oh, thank you.
So I feel like somebody with authority. I can see that.
Maybe a character in one of these Star Wars cartoons that is swiftly killed just to set the tone for
like a general. I could see that.
Dude, so I went and saw Top Gun Maverick, okay, last night with my dad. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't, but I have heard it is phenomenal.
It's awesome. And when I knew the movie was being released, now it's gone through a bit of a trial, right? Because it was supposed to have been released back in the old 2020. Obviously didn't happen, so we're bumping it out to 2022. And I remember seeing the trailer for it going, yeah, I mean, I like the original. I'm not in love with the original. I've got friends that are, and that's great. Good on you. It's not one of my like favorite movies, but it's good. It's a good 1986 action movie. So I remember seeing the trailer for Top Gun Maverick and going, okay, I'm intrigued. Like, it looks really cool.
You're
the
like,
visuals
why?
look outstanding, but why are we telling this story, right? That was the biggest question. Like, it has been a long stretch of time, and we're bringing this back out of the archive to refresh the tale. Okay. Well, one of my good buddies, Eric, who does listen to the podcast, big fan of the pod. Thank you, E. Love you. He went and saw it, texted me and said it was absolutely incredible. And so that hooked me. I'm like, okay, I got to see this. At some point, I have to see this. Long story short, text my dad, said, Dad, let's go Tuesday. He said, I'm in. We went to North Grand in Ames. Didn't have a guy. I was really hoping. Here's what I was hoping for going into the theater. I was hoping our guy from Doctor Strange who said, welcome to the multiverse of madness, the attendant that was just on top and beyond of his game. I was really hoping that I was going to get there and he was going to be outside that theater door and he was going to pull out the most classic line from the original Top Gun movie of, do you feel the need for speed? Like, I was just going to hug him. If he was there doing that, I was going to give him a full-on hug.
I would have turned around.
The need for speed.
I would have turned around. I'd be like, no. I'd be like, no.
So, unfortunately, that wish was not fulfilled. Point is, it was great. So I went in with pretty modest expectations, like a little hyped up from my buddy Eric saying, hey, this is great. But he didn't oversell it at all. It was outstanding. Now, the reason this ties into the initial discussion we're having here is there are several individuals in that movie that just have killer voices. Like Ed Harris, pretty well-known actor. His voice is great. I got to look up the guy because part of what's fun about these movies, right, is all of the characters have call signs, right? So Maverick is obviously not the character Tom Cruise plays. That's not his real name. It's Pete Mitchell, but he goes by Maverick. So there's an admiral in this movie. Admiral Solomon Bates, already good and strong, right? Off to a good start.
Well,
his call sign is Warlock. Just like, that's so great, especially when you're in that admiral ship. But his voice, I have not seen this guy, as far as I know, in any other films. Like, I'm just looking through his filmography, and I was looking through it last night. Didn't recognize him from anything, but his voice was just killer. Like, just so doggone good. I'm like, that is a voice that I wish I had. Like, you remember the New Girl episode where Nick is confused by how to identify? Like, I'm all over the place. This is great. Nick is confused by how to recognize that another man is attractive, and Schmidt is just beside himself. Like, how are you not able to identify that another guy is attractive or not? And they finally get to the point where they say, Nick, if you're looking at a guy and you're going, I'd be okay looking like that guy, that's how you know that guy's attractive. And Nick kind of ponders it for a minute, lets it settle, and goes, oh, okay. Light bulb clicks on. He goes, that's it. That's the way. That's how I feel about certain dudes' voices. It's like, if I had that guy's voice, man, I'd be stoked. So, Warlock, Top Gun Maverick, Admiral Solomon Bates, loved you, bud. Your voice was phenomenal.
Fun fact, director from Top Gun Maverick. I was talking to this with Sol and David today.
Sure.
Marshalltown, Iowa.
Really?
The director.
Really?
Marshalltown, Iowa. He hasn't directed a lot.
Okay.
He directed
Kosinski.
Tron. That's the other big one. And then there's another movie I've never heard of called Oblivion.
I've seen that one. That's another Tom Cruise flick. About 10 years ago. Okay.
But, yes, this is that director.
Dude, that was so good. Like, it does not fall into our, typical scope of the movies and pop culture that we discuss, but go see it. Like, it's good. It has such a confident identity. It knows what it is. And identity that's the key word from that movie. Like, it is a story that is about identity and being true to who you were designed to be, right? Like, I don't love that phrase of, hey, be true to yourself. Like, I don't know what to do with that, right? I don't know what that means. I feel like our culture likes to tell us that, hey, you can do anything, be anything. No, you can't. Like, you actually have limitations. You're not good at everything. I'm not good at everything. Nobody is. Okay, there's a few of you out there that are, but, screw you. Most of us have genuine, like, giftings and a lot of gaps in there, right? And so what I love about this movie and where it was unexpectedly wonderful is that it was very comfortable and confident in what it was, and it just sent, I thought, a really strong message of, listen, whatever you were designed to be, whatever those giftings are, lean into those. I really received that. I thought that was outstanding. That was a story worth telling that I didn't expect. The visuals, of course, are ridiculous, and I don't understand how Tom Cruise does it. I don't understand, A, how he's still alive, B, how he still looks as solid as he does, and C, how he keeps finding ways to make great movies. Like, say what you will about the guy personally. I know there's plenty of drama that's surrounded that guy. Yep, for decades. But he has made consistently awesome movies for the better part of, 30 plus years. Obviously, there's been some stretches in there that have been a little stinky, a little dry, shall we say. But man, for my money, I'm going to go see a movie that Tom Cruise is in because I know it's going to be very entertaining. So, I think we touched on Mission Impossible movies last pod.
We did.
Right? Love that.
Been coming up.
Love what he does. Love what he's been doing. So anyway, if you haven't seen it, go see it. Great voices, all that stuff.
Good to know.
Love it. Okay, there you go. There's my Top Gun Maverick plug. Love you, Eric. You're the man. Well, what else should we talk about other than voice acting today? Oh, sure.
I think Thor's on the to-do list.
I think it's literally on the table.
He is.
Oh! I
dropped
can't believe
the
that.
hammer on
I can't. Oh, there you go. See, I did the first pun. You one-upped it. Good job. Yeah, I mean, we're getting closer, inching closer and closer to the release of the next Thor movie, which is outstanding. We're very much looking forward to revealing Gore, the God Butcher, and I have finally completed Jason Aaron's run in the comics on Thor, which I found to be an absolute delight. So I'm looking forward to talking through that. So we'll talk a little Thor comics, which is great. I feel like there's some Star Wars things we could discuss too, Riley. Has there been an Obi-Wan show that came out? Maybe. Okay. You know what? Yes, there was. We should probably talk about
They
it.
dropped the first 2 episodes.
Huh! I caught
Friday.
him. Very good. Very
That
good.
was crazy.
Yeah.
I thought it was only 1 and there's 2. And now they drop on Wednesday for the rest of them for some stupid reason.
What a great smorgasbord that is, though. You get 2 on Friday, and then you don't even have to wait till the following Friday to get the third. That's great.
I mean, look, totally with you.
Yep.
But on the same note, it's like
Logistically, what are we doing here?
I want consistency.
Okay.
Like, that's my thing. Why drop it on Friday and then switch to Wednesdays? That doesn't make sense to me. Because if you
Memorial
think
Day
about it this
weekend?
way- yeah, but still.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a really strong answer there for you.
Nothing.
I don't know.
Because then you got.
We'll get into it. So we got Obi-Wan to discuss. We have future Star Wars content to discuss also.
Yes, they have announced a slew, just a slew
You bet.
of different shows
You bet.
and movies.
Yep.
And
Yep.
yeah, we'll dig in. This is gonna be a more of a galactic episode, if you will. Lots of Star Wars. So
You know what? We're here for it. That's absolutely outstanding. Cool. Well, let me talk a little bit of Thor by Jason Aaron. So 4 total volumes, all right? And there is a lot that takes place, as you might hope or might expect over the course of 4 volumes. But something that I appreciate that is a consistent thread from the start of this run by Mr. Aaron to its conclusion is that it stays big, it stays cosmic, it is almost never earthbound. And the handful of times that we wind up on Earth, aka Midgard, we're not staying there very long, which I think is the perfect spot for Thor. Like, in some respects, he's almost always been that Avenger that it's like, aren't you a little too powerful, a little too big of a deal to be a part of this? And there's truth in that. And so I love that Jason Aaron chooses to take a very cosmic perspective on the story of Thor. So I'm going to try and give a fairly comprehensive overview of where the story begins, where it ends. There is a lot to cover in here, so it won't be terribly deep dive. But my goal with this is to share what I know, to share what I've absorbed, to share what I've taken away from it so that you, dear sweet listener, can go out and become the dear sweet reader and check this out for yourself. Okay? A couple things to know. not only is the writing outstanding from a story perspective, but the dialogue is fantastic. Case in point, there are, I don't know how many because I never chose to count them. There are so many have at these. That's got to be a thing. That's got to be a thing. We've touched on this with the movies.
Yes.
They haven't done this. It's a beef, and it's a legit beef. There's an opportunity with Thor to have such great, unique dialogue that the MCU hasn't taken advantage of. So missed opportunity, MCU, but we won't get too far down that rabbit hole of beefness. But Thor is consistently speaking in that blend of contemporary and then Old English. It's great. I'm here for it. Along with that, whoever, not just Thor as we know him, right? Thor Odinson, but Jane Foster, when she takes on the mantle of Thor by lifting Mjolnir, she starts speaking in the same way. In the very last volume, there's a third version of Thor that's introduced, War Thor. I'm going to give you two guesses as to who it is that picks up a version of Mjolnir and becomes War Thor.
I kind of already know.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Volstagg.
Yeah.
It's great.
I didn't know his name.
It's
but
great.
I knew it was one of his three dudes.
Yep.
And it was the big dude with the big red beard.
The big round fella. Yep. Volstagg the Valiant, typically a very jovial dude. He becomes the War Thor for a period, exceptionally powered up. Huge, you might say. Huge.
He gets really angry.
Oh boy, yeah, he goes a very different direction from his typical jovial personality. So, storytelling, outstanding. Dialogue, equally great. Art. If it's going to be a good comic, it better have good art. And there are a number of different artists that are a cook in this rather large kitchen, okay? And I prefer different artists at different times. The artist's name, can I see this for a quick sec? Esad Ribic. I think that is how his last name is pronounced, either Ribic or Ribic, but I believe it's Ribic. He is unbelievable. Like, that guy cannot be topped. The art that he provides for the Gore the God Butcher storyline is second to none, okay? He's at the top. He's the original, the OG. He's incredible. The artists that take the mantle from him, particularly when we transition from focusing on Thor Odinson and go into the Jane Foster period as Thor, they have a very different style, but it's still outstanding. So there were just a couple instances where you had kind of a throw-in, tie-in, this is a random artist, who's this guy or gal, that were a little disconcerting, or disconcerting is not the right word, distracting. But by and large, the art, and that's impressive when you have this long of a run, was absolutely clutch. So storytelling, dialogue, art, it's all here. All right, what happens in this run? Well, as you might have heard, Thor, right out of the gates, volume number 1, encounters for the first time Gore the God Butcher. And my goodness, that is Gore the God Butcher on the Marvel side, Riley, and the Batman Who Laughs on the DC side, for my money, were the two best villains that have been developed and originated in the last 10 years. Like, they're just outstanding. They're terrific villains, incredibly difficult to beat, incredibly vicious, like just pure bad, right? There's no good in these guys. They're nasty, nasty dudes. So that's what happens in volume 1. It's great. You have present day Thor, past Thor, and future Thor that all have to tag team in an effort to bring Gore the God Butcher down. So the storyline is incredibly convoluted, but somehow it all makes sense at the end. I will say there's a lot of fun in that storyline, trying to figure out all the gods that Gore is trying to kill, because you wouldn't think that there's gods for everything, but there are, right? There's gods of flowers, there's gods of birds, and there's gods of freaking bombs.
So what I'm hearing is it was okay that some of them died.
100%. 100%. There are too many. There are too many. They weren't very good. Nope. Need to be whittled down. So Gore may have done us a service here. Yep. Thanks, Gore. Thanks, bud. But yeah, God of bombs, gods of everything. What comes out of this, okay, Malekith shows up after Gore has been vanquished by Thor, and Malekith has been imprisoned for a bit of a stretch of time, and Malekith starts playing the long game that, frankly, you're used to seeing Loki play, where Malekith is trying to just weave chaos into, well, everything, trying to start what he calls the War of Realms. So, as you know, Asgardian lore, you've got the 10 realms, and Malekith is like, let's just burn them all down. And so that's what he's all about. Not great. Thor has to try and deal with Malekith. Malekith does get a big chunk of Thor's arm out of the deal. So Thor loses a piece of arm thanks to Malekith. That's a bit tough.
That's
Yeah, that's where he gets the destroyer arm attached.
That's pretty badass.
That's very, very badass. Very cool. It's around this time that Thor is made to be unworthy. How is this possible? That's its own story, Original Sin. Okay, read it, check it out on YouTube for a more brief summation. Point is, Nick Fury whispers something unknown into the ear of Thor, and all of a sudden Thor can't lift up his freaking hammer. He is no longer worthy to be Thor. And so Thor, Odinson, can't lift up Mjolnir, can't wield it. He's left to his battle axe and his goats. Still a heck of a combo, right? Still not bad. But Jane Foster is revealed to be the new Thor. She picks up the hammer, is imbued with the power of Thor. And what's really awesome is that not only does she start speaking that old English of Thor and starts going by the name of Thor, but Mjolnir responds to Jane and her directions in very unique ways that it never worked for Thor Odinson, right? So she's able to, in other words, get Mjolnir to do things that Thor Odinson couldn't. So she's got some special abilities.
That's rough.
It's pretty rough. It's also pretty sweet. So she's outstanding. One of the best parts is that Odin himself is absolutely furious that Thor is unworthy and doesn't know why he's unworthy, and that some chick is running around with Mjolnir. Odin can't stand that. So Odin and Jane have a little encounter where Jane goes toe-to-toe with the Allfather.
It's fun.
Holds her own. It is fun. It is fun. Now, here's the catch, right? You'd think, how's there anything wrong with this, with picking up the hammer and being Thor? I'd like a taste of that action. Problem is, Jane's got cancer. Real bad cancer. And anytime she picks up the hammer, all right, she picks up Mjolnir, Mjolnir transforms her physical form into this Asgardian immortal, but it, I'm trying to think what the right word would be, dissolves or dispenses all of the drugs in her mortal form that are there to try and help combat the cancer that is in her body get weeded out. Okay, they get eliminated because, you know, chemotherapy is technically, it's a poison, and so Mjolnir is identifying it as something not good. So it kicks all the chemotherapy drugs out. Now, why doesn't it also eliminate the cancer? Comics, don't think about it too much. Just accept it.
I was wondering that too.
Yep, just accept it. So point is, when she's Thor, Jane Foster is just fine. She's got all the power that you'd expect a Thor to have. But as soon as she transforms back into her mortal form, she has been significantly weakened by the transformation into and then back from Thor. And so the challenge with this is Thor Odinson, he's on the quest to try and make himself worthy, right? So that's fun. Like, he's trying to go out and do all these very grand cosmic feats and things so he can regain the mantle of Mjolnir. But in the meantime, Jane feels obligated that, hey, someone needs to step in and fill the gap that Thor Odinson is leaving, because he's just not as powerful right now. Malekith is weaving his schemes. Wars exploding across all the realms. And so Jane Foster thinks that, well, she's obligated to fill in other words. Which she does, and she does really well, but it continues to weaken her. Eventually, part of what is a consistent thread through this, right? Gore's only in the first volume, but what Gore brought to the table was these gods, all right, whether they're Asgardian or any other run-of-the-mill god of mushrooms, okay? All of these gods, from Gore's perspective, are not worthy of their mantle. So that was Gore's whole mission. That was his whole message. Not only did he want to kill the gods, he wanted you to know that, hey, these dudes and dudettes, they're not worthy of your worship. They're not worthy of the abilities and the powers that they have as gods. And that is a consistent theme throughout these 4 volumes as Thor Odinson tries to find his worthiness. Jane Foster even wonders if she's worthy, if anyone is worthy of being a god. And as it turns out, Gore the God Butcher is not the worst thing that could happen to gods. The worst thing is this deity like being called Mangog. Just a straight up comic name there. How can we just mush some letters together and come up with a name? Mangog. Mangog. Okay, we got it. Apparently this guy comes out once every couple of decades to kill all the gods. So he emerges and he is just wrecking everyone. Volstagg is the war Thor. He shows up in here for a little bit, which is kind of fun to watch. A little sad, right? You don't like seeing Volstagg go to the dark side, but he gets really angry when he gets that hammer. You won't like him when he's angry. But anywho, Mangog rips through all of these gods because he is on the same page as Gore. Hey, none of you guys are worthy. There's actually a really vicious scene where one of Thor's goats tries to attack Mangog, and Mangog just grabs it and pops the head of the goat right off. Oh, it's devastating.
No.
Yeah, right. It's a bit tough. It's a bit tough to see. So one of the goats goes down. Very disappointing, but it does tell you that okay, Mangog's got he's pretty tough. He's a pretty tough dude.
That's rough.
Jane Foster, in her last act as Thor, ties Mjolnir to a chain, throws Mjolnir so it wraps Mangog in the chain, and then sends Mjolnir into the sun with Mangog attached. So Mangog, pop, goodbye, gone. But that's how she actually saves the day for the one last time. It's outstanding. So a lot going on in these volumes, but I think whether you're a regular comic reader or not, I think you can dive into this storyline and really enjoy it. It certainly weaves in and out of what's going on with the Avengers, particularly as we get into volumes 2, 3, and beyond. So there's some challenges that come with it there as far as like I had to YouTube like, okay, what's this storyline about, to try and fill in some storytelling blanks that inevitably occur when you're trying to tie everything together all the time. But it's very much worth your time. And listen, if nothing else, you got to check out Volume 1 with Gore the God Butcher. We've talked about it before on this pod. It's as good as it gets in comics. Check that out. That's Thor, Jason Aaron.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what I got for you.
Great. The only thing I can think of was when you said that, she can get the hammer to do things that he couldn't.
Right.
It's like watching your ex just start dating Ryan Reynolds. Like, it's just tough. Like, this is a loss.
Hard to feel good about that.
You're like...
Yeah. I got nothing. I got nothing.
Because you're like, I can't beat that, obviously. But at the same time, it's like... But why? How? That's pretty...
Right.
You're
right. That's a good comparison.
Flabbergasted.
Yep. Flabbergasted and nothing you can do about it.
Just...
It's a very, very solid character-driven story. Again, I love the cosmic aspect of it. There's very little time in the Jason Aaron run where we're seeing Thor with the Avengers. I know that in between these stories, that is a thing. But I'm glad that this is such a Thor-centric storyline. I think it explores that character very, very well. It was worth it from beginning to end. I don't think it gets better than the Gore storyline, so that's a little tough when you start out with the best right off the bat. But at no point was I underwhelmed by what I was reading, going, man, this is just so far off the mark or off the pace from what Volume 1 said. It's still really good. It's still really worthwhile. But the Gore storyline is just an all-timer. Like, you can pick that up, read it anytime, put it back down, and just be blown away. It's so good, from the hero of Thor to the villain of Gore, all the art, the cosmicness of the story, the fact that it's playing with the timelines of past, present, and future, and finding a comprehensible way to weave them all together is just incredible. Just incredible. So I can't recommend that story enough. It's absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. It's good. That's what we got for Thor.
Nice.
So I'm excited to see what they do with Jane Foster in our upcoming Thor flick here in about a month and a half. They could do a whole lot of things, right? Like, they could have her have cancer as well.
I was kind of wondering if they were going to do that.
But my hunch is that a big piece, and I think we got to taste of this in that full trailer, that a lot of the crux of the character development for this story in that movie is going to be worthiness, right? Like Thor's questioning his own worthiness as a god. Gore is obviously questioning the worthiness of gods, and actually he's not questioning. He's got the answer. No, they're not. They're not worthy. And I think the addition of Jane Foster, the insertion of her in that story, and her ability to take on the mantle of Thor and do it well, that's challenging in its own right. When you're seeing somebody else, like you said, Ryan Reynolds, well, can't compete with that. So I'm looking forward to the movie that much more for having read this storyline, but it's one that I'll come back to frequently. It's outstanding. It's great. Love it. Hey, what should we talk about next?
I think Obi-Wan.
Oh, sure. That show. So we saw episodes 1 and 2. Now, we are recording this on a Wednesday. Neither of us have seen episode 3 yet. Is that true? Okay,
Correct.
Great. So we're going to keep it. We're going to let it sync up because we are fans of logistics. We're going to let it sync up fairly well. We're going to do 2 episodes per podcast episode. So 2 parts, I suppose, is what they're really technically dividing that show up to. So we'll touch on parts 1 and 2 here in our podcast episode. And let's just start nice and broad, Riley. What'd you think? Our expectations were soaring?
Correct.
Collectively soaring. First third of the show. It's in the can. You've absorbed it. What do you got?
I think right now I'm medium.
Yep.
I'm just whelmed. I'm whelmed right now.
Okay.
I think the premise is solid. Mm-hmm. The fact, I did not think we were getting Leia as a kid.
Right?
That was fun for me.
That was great.
Oh, sweet. And then they show Alderaan, which again, I was like, cool. New planet that we haven't seen.
Except in dust particles.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, this is good. They brought back the actor and actress who played her parents. Mm-hmm. Great. Mm-hmm. I like Luke's uncle. I think he's great.
Yep.
I think he'll be a fun character.
But yeah, that was quite the twist, wasn't it? To go from what we had been shown in all the marketing of Obi-Wan being on Tatooine, watching Luke from afar. Like, we didn't get a single snippet that I know of young Leia.
Which is great.
It is great. Love that.
And
that's tremendous marketing.
We haven't been on Tatooine for the whole time.
Correct.
Again, great.
Correct.
We've seen too much of that desert planet of garbage.
Seen a lot of it.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
So that was cool. Having Leia was cool. The Inquisitors. Okay, I'm gonna get a little into the not the stuff that I liked. Okay.
Okay. So hold on. Before you go there. Okay. So broad picture.
Broad picture.
You're whelmed.
I'm whelmed.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of good that can still come.
Yes.
The teaser at the end of part 2
Yep.
with Vader,
Yep.
I was like all in.
You
I'm
bet.
like, okay, this is where I hop on the ship and we stay and we coast.
Yes.
So, yes.
So I'm in a similar boat, maybe a little more than whelmed, because it's meeting my expectations enough. I don't know what you're supposed to do in 2 episodes let me rephrase that. I don't know how my expectations are going to be fulfilled until the show is over.
Correct.
Okay, I just don't think that kind of a conclusion can be drawn. But everything that I have seen so far has only nourished that hope that I have for this show and what it will ultimately provide. I haven't had anything that has that's drawn me back going, oh no, we're headed towards a bummer.
Yeah, I haven't had that.
And that's critical. That's a win in its own right. Love Ewan McGregor. Our boy Ben Kruger, he and I were messaging back and forth, and he was talking about how much he really enjoys how Obi-Wan is just not in a good place right now, that it's almost as if he's in going through some very significant PTSD. Yeah. And I concur. I think that's a great place to pick up with this character. He's hesitant to the point of just avoiding intentionally opportunities to utilize the Force. He is more willing, and it was really significant in that first episode where he's more willing to let a fellow Jedi die than he is to reveal himself or go back to that old way of living. Like that showed you as much as anything where Obi-Wan is, right, when we first encounter him, which was great. And I also thought it was really helpful that right at the outset of part 1 that they compiled scenes from the prequels.
That was awesome.
I thought that was really helpful. That was really well selected.
So good.
Because it's been a long time, right? Since most of us have seen those prequels. And so it was great. It was a good transition into, and here's where we're stepping off. And I also really approved of how explicit they were in part 1. I think it was part 1. Yes, it was part 1. With stating that Obi-Wan believes that Anakin is dead. Because
that was cool.
Us as the audience members, right, we know Anakin's alive. And so it was critical. And so they nailed this detail that Owen is talking with Obi-Wan, and in that dialogue, they are just putting out there like, well, Anakin's dead. We know he's gone. That was really important because I don't think that had in episode 2, right, had that line of dialogue not taken place and they had not been intentionally specific about telling us, the audience, hey, Obi-Wan doesn't know that Anakin's alive. He thinks he's dead. That drop at the end of episode 2 where it's revealed to Obi-Wan that Anakin is alive would have been so much less impactful. It would have been more of a, well, yeah, no kidding. Like, doesn't he know that? He doesn't know that? Why doesn't he know that? Similar, because it reminded me a lot of our discussion that we had about Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and the twins that Wanda has and how that was such a big part of the WandaVision show, and how we both agreed that was a miss by the movie to have not set that up better for those that hadn't seen the show. So that was encouraging to see that crushed in this case, because that could have very easily been missed. So I'm getting a little down in specifics. Broadly, I'm enjoying it so far, hopeful for where it's going. Now let's get into specifics. What are some things that you really liked or really are either strongly disliked or going, oh boy, you're gonna have to show me more here?
First of all, I love Ewan. Obviously, I feel like he's becoming more and more Obi-Wan as we go, because him on the planet was just hilarious on the second planet. I love the fact that he's trying to contact Qui-Gon Jinn. And if we get Liam Neeson
oh my goodness,
I will freak out. Because that would be awesome. So, and they teased it. I'm actually surprised he hasn't been able to contact Qui-Gon yet.
Right, because they teased that with the prequel trilogy
and it just
compilation.
And it just seems like Obi-Wan, the show here, is actually going to try to fill in like some holes from episode 3 or just from the prequels in general. So I'd love to see Force Ghost Qui-Gon Jinn. That would be sick.
Now remind me, because I remember watching part 1, and that line from Yoda was given to Obi-Wan about being able to connect with Qui-Gon. Was that from the prequels, or was that just added for this show?
I don't know.
Okay, I wasn't confident either way.
I have no idea.
Okay,
I have a feeling it was, because when I was watching the chants, it was like, oh, they're going to try to fill that hole. I was like, oh,
okay.
Fill away.
Okay. Yep.
So, yes. Yeah. I'm hoping he whips the lightsaber out in episode 3. It looks like he just whipped. It looks like he finally whipped out the Force.
I told you, not till episode 5 at the earliest will we see it.
It's just.
They're teasing it, like they're being so cruel. So cruel.
I know it is cruel. But
he was so close. He was so close.
I was hoping to see it.
I was hoping, but I was also hoping to not see it because I didn't want to be wrong.
Fair enough.
But I mean, like, it would be better to see the lightsaber. Let's be honest.
But should we get into the bad?
Okay, so those are your good things. We touched on Leia. Like, that was great.
Leia was great.
That was a great twist. And listen, I thought the actress, like that young gal that's playing her, she's crushing it. She's fantastic.
She's good.
She's really good. Now, the chase scenes, talk about this with our guy Gundy. Okay. Come on. catch
They were
the little girl. You have
so
adults.
bad.
They were terrible.
So bad.
They were terrible.
Dude,
this is transitioning into the bad. Like, you have adults chasing a 10-year-old. The adults are going to catch the 10-year-old within 15 seconds.
First of all, there were 3 times where she was like arm's length and they just couldn't get it.
Yep.
There's another time she runs into a tree branch and it's like, oh, you can't go this way. It's a brick wall. And then the thing that kills me, and I didn't catch it until the second time seeing it, she did like a Call of Duty slide underneath a tree.
Yep.
And I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense.
No.
And there's also a part of me where I feel like she's too smart, but they even comment on that because Obi-Wan's like, how old are you?
Right.
And she's like 10. I was like, okay, some of it makes sense, but other parts I'm like, this is a smart kid.
Right.
So I was a little confused by that.
Well, I'm wondering if they've got a little, like, if they're going to tease that she's aware of her Force abilities. Like, when she is telling Obi-Wan, like, she's profiling him, right? Like, she is psychologically saying, hey, here's why you operate the way that you do. That didn't feel like, she's just really intelligent. It felt more like she's got a little, she can tell because she's got the Force.
That would be, and then that would make sense to me, and I would be okay with that.
Sure.
But there's just some parts where I'm like, she's too smart.
Mm-hmm.
Because if my 10-year-old talked to me like that, psych ward, immediately. I'd be like, something is not right with this kid.
Locking him up.
Double check him.
Locking him up.
For the love of God. And now.
That's great. Okay, what other beefs do you have? They haven't shown you the lightsaber. So sorry.
Okay. The third sister.
Yep.
Reva.
Yep.
Okay. Now, before we get into this,
I know nothing about the Inquisitors, right? Like, I haven't watched any of the animated material, so I don't have any expectation coming in of here's what I would want to or expect to see with the Inquisitors.
Neither have I. Okay. But before we get into it, that actress has been getting like a lot of racist comments towards her.
Why?
Leave her alone, man. Even if you don't like the character, it doesn't make sense to me. Leave it alone. No place for that.
That's just dumb.
Okay,
no.
But now, I don't like the character at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna be straight up. I don't know what. I know why, but I don't know why they went this route.
Okay.
But she is the same problem I had with Captain Marvel because she has one tone and it's bitch.
It's not nice.
She's a bitch the entire time.
Sure.
And I'm like, no depth. Like, you guys, you push for like female leads. Great. Make them worthwhile because this is not worthwhile.
Pretty shallow.
Ahsoka, great. And maybe it will get better when we get into her like backstory. And I already have my theories of her backstory.
Mace Windu?
No, my theory was she was one of the young
Was that
ones.
racist for me to say that?
No. No, but for me it was more like because Mace rode the line between light and dark, so that makes sense to me.
Sure.
But my theory is she's a youngling at the time, and for some reason Obi-Wan wasn't able to save her or something.
Right.
That's my guess. Because
I was guessing she was a Mace Windu relative.
That makes, you know what? It would make sense to me.
Yep.
But. So I did a little, I watched a little video.
Okay, you dug in a little bit. You did a little digging.
All the Inquisitors are former Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
They are not...
Which I didn't know, so I liked that they explained that in the show.
Correct.
That was great.
Like, the Grand Inquisitor was like a Jedi temple guard.
Okay.
This is what I had talked with Chance. And he turned and sided with Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense. Like, why not? Like, if you're the Sith, right? If you're Palpatine... and you have turned Anakin, wouldn't you want to turn others? Like,
yes.
Does it really just need to be the two of you? Isn't it better to have Samo?
And now they are not Sith Lords or anything. They just are under Vader. So Vader has full control over the Inquisitors. She also has the most insane plot armor I've ever seen in my life. With the Grand Inquisitor, as soon as she talked back in Episode 2, she should have been dead.
Yeah.
When he got super close to her, I'm like, oh, he's going to stab her in the chest.
Right.
Nope, he's like, nah, I'll come back to get you. That makes zero sense in that
Agreed.
situation.
Very thin. Very thin.
This is the dark side, okay? It's not like the Jedi where you're like, we'll give you a second chance. No, this is, I'm going to stab you in the chest now. You're dead. It's done. We're done with it.
There are no verbal reprimands. There's
Correct.
verbal reprimand that comes with a lightsaber on the other side.
And then she stabs him? What is this nonsense? He's supposed to be stronger than her, and you couldn't sense that, hey, she might stab me. That doesn't make any sense at all. And now, he's the main villain in season 1 of Rebels.
Okay.
And he is alive. And Rebels takes place after this show.
He may not be dead, though, right?
I don't think he is.
No.
Everybody online's like, he has 2 stomachs because of his race. Great. Great. But like, at
So
the same time,
he's
like,
a cow, right? With multiple stomachs.
Guess,
okay.
But at the same time, it's like, so why are you like?
But just from a plot perspective, like, does it really make sense for Reva to? Reva or Reva? Like, what's the? Okay.
Third sister.
Third sister. Does it make sense for her to stab him? Like, is that in her best interest?
It doesn't make sense.
No,
So,
I totally agree. There's work that needs to be done with her character because the one tone, it's not. We can do better, right? Surely we can do better than that.
Like I said, that's the best comparison. Is she's the Captain Marvel of Star Wars.
Yep.
Because that was my problem with Captain Marvel.
Yep.
She had one tone throughout the entire movie.
Yep.
And it was bitch. Like, you can make a badass character without making her a bitch.
Yep.
You can do it.
Like we're about to see with Jane Foster.
Correct.
Yep.
She does not look like she's going to be a bitch. She looks like she's going to be a badass.
Yep.
I'm all for it.
Yep.
Valkyrie has been a badass.
Yep.
Great. It just doesn't make sense. And maybe that's what we're missing is the backstory, and
Sure.
maybe it will make sense because there's got to be some reason she's so obsessed with Obi-Wan. I mean, he's cute, I get it, but like at the same time, it's just so. I'll be interested because she's gonna die at some point in this show.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
She's dead. It's either gonna be the Grand Inquisitor coming back to get his vengeance, or it's gonna be Vader. And I'm kind of hoping it would be Vader because Vader will be more badass.
Right.
But there's this line from Rebels where it's like, the Grand Inquisitor, before he dies in Rebels, he says there are fates far worse than death. So I'm assuming after he fails, somehow he interacts with Vader, and maybe that's why he says what he says later is because Vader kicks his ass around a little bit. Which, again, cool if you do that. But I kind of hope it's Vader that kills her, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It would be more impactful.
Yeah.
But that's my main issue with this show so far.
Sure.
I think everything else is great, and like I said, maybe when her character gets fleshed out backstory-wise, I won't feel that way. And so now it's just, I think, that's pretty much what I got on that.
Hey, another random pull from our guy, Gundy. Did you know that the leader of the kidnappers is Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers?
The drummer? I see it now.
Yeah, right?
I see it
right?
now.
He told me that, like, that's who that is. Okay. Because the dude looked vaguely familiar, but he's got that same Paul Dano quality of Paul Dano was put on this earth to be an actor that's a creep.
For sure.
And Flea was put on this earth to be a tremendous drummer and play a kidnapper that gets killed in Obi-Wan Part
Correct.
2.
And then,
He's got the look. It's great.
The girl who gives Obi-Wan the drugs, that's Ewan McGregor's daughter.
Okay.
Fun fact.
All right.
But
That's great. No, love what you said. I think those are all valid concerns. Really valid concerns. So there's hope, right?
Right.
We're 2 parts in, 4 parts to go. I am fascinated to see where the show is going to go as far as how much longer is Obi-Wan going to be hanging out with Leia.
That is a good question. I was wondering.
How motivated, let me rephrase that, is Anakin aware at all that he has 2 kids?
I don't think so.
He has to be at some point. Like, where does he become aware?
Where does that line go?
Where does he become aware that he has 2 kids? Because in The Empire Strikes Back, he's aware that Luke is his son. So at some point,
Episode 4?
Wow, it's been too long since I've seen the originals, Riley.
Like, that's my question. Did
Yep.
he know the entire time during the originals? Because that's the question you have to ask. I don't know when he finds out that Luke's his kid.
Yeah, see, I don't recall a specific line of dialogue, like, for example, where Palpatine tells Vader, hey, that young dude running around that's been giving us such a hard time, blew up the Death Star, that's your son.
Or did he even know? Did Palpatine know?
Yeah, Palpatine knew.
Palpatine did know?
Palpatine knew.
Because I couldn't remember if he knew. Because
Yep, Palpatine knew. So anyway,
Vader's
I think that is going to be a factor moving forward, which I didn't think about coming into this show, right? But now that we've seen parts 1 and 2, I think that's going to be a piece of this story of Anakin is going to be aware that he has at least a child, if not 2. And so I'm fascinated to see how that unfolds between him and Obi-Wan. On top of what does Obi-Wan do at this point? How does he interact with Vader? And then the biggest question I have in my mind is, okay, there's time that passes between this show's conclusion and the original trilogy. How are we going to, and my assumption is that these 6 parts are going to take place within the span of, a week or so, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. What we're going to receive in this show, is it going to be enough for us to feel satisfied that wherever part 6 wraps up, that there aren't storytelling gaps left between part 6 of the Obi-Wan show and episode 4 of the Star Wars movies? That's big. That's a big ask.
Well, and then you have to also ask, too, is Luke, as a child, going to get involved in this as well at some point?
Sure.
But
it feels very much like no.
I agree.
It feels very much like we have seen all we're going to see of Luke until episode 6, where Obi-Wan looks at him one more time after sheathing his lightsaber.
And Owen, because I don't think Owen's going to let him do anything or go anywhere with it. No. But I do love the Leia piece. Like, that's top notch. Yes.
That's great. Because it also, I think, helps make sense just from what we know with episode 4.
Correct.
Of, hey, this is why Leia is going to Obi-Wan. He's a known quantity
and
to her.
And calling him Obi-Wan.
Yes. So, absolutely love that. That's great. So, I'm hopeful, Riles. I think it's off to a really solid start. Overall, there are absolutely some concerns, not unexpected, but I think there's enough positive to gain from this for us to really look forward. And here's the other thing I love that they revealed Vader at the end of part 2, that they didn't hang on to that. They didn't do the freaking Kingpin and Hawkeye crap of, well, here's the end of episode 5, there you go, and then he's in episode 6 and gets somehow defeated by Kate Bishop.
No, see, it goes and shows that, Vader is going to be a big part of this.
He should be, right?
Glorious.
You bet.
Can you imagine if we got, a Vader show after this? I'm all for it. But anyways.
Okay.
That'd be so cool.
That's great. Anything else you want to hit on in the topic?
I think is all
of Obi-Wan.
I think there's just a lot of potential still, which is good.
No question.
I think it will get better, and I
do too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of setup in these first 2 parts that I'm hopeful is going to just pay off as time passes. So, very excited. Very excited. Cool. Let's stay on the Star Wars track.
Correct.
Yeah, so Star Wars, as it turns out, is cranking out the content. That's great, we think. Let's discuss a little bit about what is coming in the future. So we are in the thick of Obi-Wan, the limited series.
Yeah.
That's outstanding. The next on the docket is Andor. Okay? Now, neither of us, I think, are looking at that as we're looking at a release date of appears August 31st, so a few months away. Neither of us, I don't feel like, have been particularly excited for this show.
Right.
Not in negative town either, but it's just okay, that's happening. Yep.
It's there.
It's there. Tales of the Jedi, that's an animated series that's coming out allegedly sometime this fall. Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 2. Did you watch Season 1 at all?
No.
No, nor have I.
Because I haven't finished Clone Wars.
Okay, fair enough.
And her Bad Batch was
was just okay. All right, so that's still cranking. That's all that we've got for 2022, unless I'm missing anything you can think of. So then we transition to 2023, and this is where I think it starts to get probably a little more exciting, right? Mandalorian?
Yeah.
Season 3.
Season 3.
February of 2023. Not a specific date, but that's the month we've been teased. The Young Jedi Adventures animated TV series.
Sounds like a kid's show.
It does. It does. Everything about that. Yep. Star Wars Visions Volume 2. Volume 1 has come out. I haven't seen a single second of it.
It's like, I think they're just one-off episodes.
Yep. That's fine.
In different like art styles and stuff.
Sure.
I haven't seen it either.
Yep. To each their own. Not mine. And then Ahsoka coming out sometime in 2023. I'm very much looking forward to that. Like, I love these rogue Jedi tales. That's great. We got Obi-Wan. We're getting Ahsoka. Fantastic. Let's see it. I'm here for it. Skeleton Crew coming out sometime in 2023, and that's where we've got Jude Law stepping in. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. The Acolyte TV series.
Sounds badass.
Okay. Lando TV series. Now we're kind of in that in development stage, so no defined date yet. But Taika Waititi might be making a Star Wars movie.
That will be the next movie, Star Wars movie that comes out will be Taika Waititi's.
I'm all for the shows right now. I'm Obi-Wan on Tatooine. PTSD with the movies right now. Like, I don't trust you. That's
fair.
Yeah. So anything else you want to touch on with the future development or any other titles that I have not hit for us?
I just think it's funny to point out David Binoff and D.B. Weiss's Star Wars movies getting canceled. That's what you get for ruining Game of Thrones.
Whoops.
That was in deep with me. So
I know it.
what
are you looking forward to the most out of all that?
So
pretty steady, not like a big flood, but just a steady, here we go, every couple of months, every few months.
Well, Mando Season 3.
You bet.
Definitely number one on that list.
Yep.
By far.
Yep.
And if I'm going to be honest, out of all of these, next, I think Tales of the Jedi actually sounds really fascinating.
Sure.
So it's an anthology, basically just showing, I think it's just one-off episodes, but it shows where each Jedi came from.
Right.
Before they became Jedi, which fascinates me. So like the first one they showed was Ahsoka.
Yep.
So like if we see like a young Mace Windu, a young Plo Koon, a young Kit Fisto, I think all of those have so much potential to just show us different planets and different Force abilities and all this fun jazz. So I'm all for that. I think that's number 2. Andor, I still don't know how I feel about. Bad Batch, I haven't watched and don't really care. Like, I think Ahsoka's got good potential because I like Ahsoka as a character, and I have a feeling it's going to tie in with The Mandalorian because that just seems like what they're doing with the live action shows outside of Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan won't tie in with that. I think Obi-Wan will keep tying in with the actual prequels and the main Star Wars, the Skywalker saga. But I think, and the Acolyte sounds cool because it's pretty. I don't know what the synopsis is, but I'm assuming it's like it sounds like it's kind of like how they had Dooku and Maul and all these other villains. It sounds like he's the next potential, maybe like Vader's apprentice, which would be dope. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I like the emphasis in this season of TV shows. I really do. Like, we have talked about this before on some distant pod in the past, and I remember saying then, I feel the same way now. Like, let's stay in TV land for as long as we possibly can. Like, I saw a news piece where Kathleen Kennedy, the czar, if you will, of Star Wars, at the very least, she has as much, if not more, say than any one other individual on what direction the franchise will go. And she stated that it's time to be done with the Skywalker saga.
Thank God.
Right? Totally agree, because I think for a while now, they have boxed themselves in to a really, really challenging spot where you have not only the high expectations that inherently come with Star Wars content, but they were fighting a really similar battle as the prequels of, hey, some of us, to a certain extent, how some of these storylines are going to conclude, and how do you match up and meet the expectations that come with that original trilogy, right? Prequels couldn't do it. The sequel, since they chose to tie directly into that same thread. And we don't have to go over all that old ground. But point is, I like the shows because even when they're not great, okay, it's like, you know what, you can snip that branch and say, okay, we're going to be done with that. We're not going to go that direction. And then when they succeed wildly, like The Mandalorian has, which who expected that? Nobody.
No.
Nobody. But it has, and then you can say, wait a minute, no, we've got a path that we can broaden out and flesh out into a really worthwhile series of stories. And so I think that is outstanding, and hopefully what this will do is we'll eventually get back to some movies, and that's great. But in the meantime, let's find out what the identity of Star Wars needs to be in order to be successful before we start launching another set of movies. Because I also think that when Star Wars, when they decide, hey, it's time to start making movies again, get away from the trilogy crap. Like, that's old. We're not in trilogy land anymore. If freaking Mission Impossible is going to make 8 movies out of its franchise, why on earth is Star Wars saying, hey, we're doing trilogies at a time? Your neighbors right next door at Marvel are putting together dozens of movies that cohesively interact with one another. Why would you not seek to do the same? Why not?
Well, can you imagine they doing something similar to the MCU, but with like prequel? Like,
yes! Either go thousands of years in the past or thousands of years in the future. Like, get away from this.
There are so many cool Sith Lords you could touch. There's so many cool Jedi you can make up.
My goodness.
If we got a young Yoda, that would be cool.
Make them up.
Like,
Mandalorian has been made up. Make them up.
Correct.
Let's do some original content.
There are some really cool Sith Lords, though, if they brought them in. It would be dope.
Do both. Do both then.
Do both.
Please, everyone.
Because show why they made the rule of two the rule of two.
Yep.
That would be awesome. So cool. And that's where I sit.
Yeah, totally agree. And I feel like it's inevitable for them to go that direction. But that's my hope. Like, figure out what your identity is. Figure out who your appropriate partners are, right? So Kathleen Kennedy seems to certainly be entrenched in her role as the Feige of the Star Wars world. Okay, so that is what it is. Who can she most effectively partner with that can help steward these stories in such a way that they're fleshed out, that they're well developed, that they show us characters that inspire and delight us?
They have the guys.
Yeah.
They have the guys. They have Jon Favreau, who they should be tapping into at all times.
Yep.
And then they have the guy who was in charge of like the Clone Wars, and I can't think of his name. He wears a cowboy hat for fun. So that guy. And then if you tap into those
because I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name as
well.
I'm
like
sorry.
Dave Filoni.
There you are. You got it. Yep.
For some reason, I want to say JJ or something in the middle, like Dave JJ Filoni. And I'm like, that's
no,
wrong.
you're right. You're right.
It's definitely wrong. But yeah, they tap into Dave and old John. They're not gonna have any issues. I think they both do great jobs. And Dave loves his characters that he's come up with or helped create, which he should.
You have to do original characters. Like, why are you not doing original characters?
Exactly.
Do it. Do it. It just, that has always been part of the strongest or the strength of Star Wars is these are original characters in original worlds. And so to feel like you are anchored to what has come before, I mean, tap into that spirit by all means, but do not for a moment feel like you have to keep telling stories that have people with the last name of Skywalker or that will someday have the last name of Skywalker. We don't need that. Like, for better and for worse, that story has been told. Tie it off. Let it be what it is. Move on, please.
Yeah,
please.
And if you're not going to move on, at least reboot the sequels and act like they didn't happen. That's my only thing.
Yep. Big ask.
So.
May not happen, but, we can dream.
It is what it is.
That's great, Riles. All right, anything else you want to touch on, my guy?
I think that's good because I got to pee so bad. Like, so bad.
It is time. It is time.
It's time for me to let loose.
Well, that's great. I'm looking forward to hitting up more of Obi-Wan. What an exciting next few weeks it's going to be to continue to digest that. Oh, and hey, the next Clooney Fest is coming up for me on a personal level.
There you go.
So my boys, where we gather and we watch all those George Clooney flicks and shows, we're in it this upcoming weekend. Very excited.
Well, enjoy. I hope it's
great.
Everything you want.
It's Fest number 11. Here we go.
On that note, check us out on YouTube and subscribe at JP and the Beanstalk. And then we are on Instagram at JP and the Beanstalk and TikTok, Magic Beans Productions. If you enjoy my wonderful comedic voice,
there it is.
Check us out on Cloudy with a Chance of Beans. And that's all I got because if I keep going, I'm gonna piss.
You're gonna wet your pants. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Godspeed.
Appreciate you all.